This is absolutely devastating for Trump. During live court testimony, witnesses just exposed secret recordings, hush money schemes, and internal communications that directly implicate Trump in cover-ups. We're talking about Michael Cohen playing actual audio of Trump discussing illegal payments. We're talking about documents contradicting everything Trump has said publicly. And we're watching Trump's legal team visibly collapse under the weight of evidence they can't refute. This isn't speculation or anonymous sources. This is witnesses under oath, in open court, presenting irrefutable evidence that destroys Trump's defense. Secret recordings from Cohen's phone. Internal memos proving Trump knew about the schemes. Testimony from people who were in the room when decisions were made. All of it coming out live during cross-examination. If you want to understand how Trump's legal defenses are crumbling in real time, and trust me, what's being exposed in these courtrooms is absolutely damning, hit that subscribe button right now. Because we're about to break down the most explosive witness testimony against Trump and why this cross-examination collapse could be the beginning of the end for his legal defense. All right, let me walk you through the most devastating moments from this cross-examination because the evidence is absolutely brutal. Michael Cohen, Trump's former attorney and fixer, took the stand and revealed secret recordings where Trump discussed hush money payments and campaign cover-ups. These aren't paraphrased conversations or recollections. These are actual audio recordings of Trump's voice discussing illegal payments to silence scandals before the 2016 election. Cohen recorded conversations with Trump about paying off women, about covering up affairs, about using campaign funds illegally. And prosecutors played those recordings in open court. Think about how damning that is. Trump has spent years denying he knew about these payments, claiming he had no involvement in hush money schemes, saying Cohen acted on his own. And then the prosecution plays audio of Trump literally discussing the payments. That's not he said, she said. That's Trump's own voice contradicting his public statements. The testimonies detailed covert conversations about payoffs to silence scandals. Cohen testified about specific meetings where Trump directed him to make payments, about phone calls where they discussed how to structure the payments to avoid detection, about Trump's personal involvement in every step of the scheme. And Cohen had receipts, not just recordings, documents, text messages, bank records, all corroborating his testimony. When defense attorneys tried to attack Cohen's credibility during cross-examination, prosecutors could point to physical evidence backing up everything he said. The cross-examination was supposed to be where Trump's defense destroyed Cohen's credibility. That's how defense attorneys work. They attack witness reliability, poke holes in their stories, create reasonable doubt. But Cohen didn't collapse under cross-examination. He held firm. He had evidence to back up his claims, and he turned the tables by revealing even more damaging information. Prosecutors presented irrefutable evidence during the live cross-examination. Internal memos showing Trump was aware of and directing the hush money scheme. Financial records tracing payments. Communications proving Trump's personal involvement. The paper trail was comprehensive and devastating. So let's talk about what this evidence actually proves and why Trump's legal team is in such obvious distress. Because this isn't just bad testimony. This is evidence that could lead to criminal convictions. The secret recordings are particularly damaging because they're Trump's own words. He can't claim he didn't know about the payments when there's audio of him discussing them. He can't claim Cohen acted independently when recordings show Trump directing the scheme. His own voice is the prosecution's best evidence. And the recordings aren't just about hush money. They discuss campaign finance violations, potential fraud, obstruction of justice. Each recording potentially supports multiple criminal charges. That's why prosecutors are treating these as such crucial evidence. The hush money schemes connect to broader pattern of conduct. This isn't just about paying off women to cover up affairs. It's about using campaign funds illegally, about falsifying business records, about conspiracy to violate election laws. The charges multiply as the evidence accumulates. The court saw visible moments of collapse from Trump's legal team. Reports describe them looking rattled, unprepared for the strength of the evidence, unable to effectively counter Cohen's testimony. When your defense strategy depends on discrediting a witness and they have recordings that prove their story, you're in serious trouble. Key witnesses didn't just expose secrets. They resisted aggressive defense tactics. Defense attorneys tried to attack Cohen's character, his criminal history, his motives. But Cohen stayed calm, stuck to his testimony, and kept referencing the physical evidence that supported his claims. That's devastating for the defense. The contradictions between Trump's public narratives and the evidence are stark. Trump has spent years calling this a witch hunt, claiming innocence, attacking Cohen as a liar. But the recordings and documents prove Trump knew about and directed illegal activity. That gap between his public claims and the evidence is prosecutorial gold. The campaign cover-ups are particularly significant because they go to election integrity. If Trump illegally used campaign funds to silence scandals before the 2016 election, that's not just fraud, it's undermining democratic elections. Voters had a right to know about these allegations before they voted. And if Trump covered up these schemes, if he lied about them repeatedly, that's obstruction. That's additional crimes on top of the original offenses. The cover-up often becomes worse than the underlying conduct. The widespread legal misconduct painting Trump isn't limited to one scheme or one set of charges. The testimony is revealing a pattern. Trump directed illegal activity, used others to carry it out, then lied about it when caught. That pattern makes it harder to claim innocent mistakes or isolated incidents. Before we get into what this means for Trump's political future, if you think this courtroom testimony is finally exposing Trump's crimes, go ahead and hit that like button. And drop a comment. Do you think Trump will actually face accountability, or will he somehow escape consequences again? Alright, so where does Trump go from here given this devastating evidence? Because when your former attorney is playing recordings of you discussing crimes, your legal options become very limited. First, the psychological and strategic impact on Trump's defense is massive. His lawyers came into this trial expecting to discredit Cohen and create reasonable doubt. Instead, Cohen brought irrefutable evidence that supports his testimony. That's a complete strategic collapse. Trump's legal team now has to figure out a new approach. They can't deny the recordings exist. They can't claim Trump didn't say what he clearly said on tape. So what's left? Probably arguing about legal interpretations, about whether conduct that's clearly unethical actually rises to criminal level, about technicalities. But juries don't like technicalities when there's clear evidence of wrongdoing. They hear Trump's voice discussing illegal payments. They see the documents proving it happened, and they're likely to convict. The legal nuances defense attorneys rely on don't work as well when the facts are this damning. The fallout for Trump's 2026 campaign could be significant. He's trying to run for president again while facing multiple criminal trials. Each piece of damaging testimony, each recording that proves his guilt, makes it harder to maintain the witch hunt narrative. Voters are watching these trials. They're seeing the evidence. And while Trump's hardcore base will defend him regardless, moderate voters who might have supported him are watching his former attorney play recordings of Trump discussing crimes. That's not a good look electorally. The role of secret recordings in modern political trials is fascinating. Cohen recorded conversations without Trump knowing. That's legal in New York, where one-party consent applies. And those recordings are now destroying Trump's defense. That's going to make future politicians very paranoid about what their associates might be recording. Leaked evidence also plays a huge role in shaping public opinion. Even when evidence hasn't been officially admitted in court, leaks to media allow the public to evaluate it. That creates pressure on courts, influences political discourse, and shapes how people view the accused. This moment links to past controversies. The Russia investigation, the Ukraine scandal, the January 6th case. There's a pattern of Trump engaging in questionable or illegal conduct, denying it, then evidence emerging that proves he lied. That pattern is becoming impossible to ignore. The ongoing investigations are being strengthened by this testimony. If Cohen's recordings proved valuable in one case, prosecutors in other cases are probably looking for similar evidence. Anyone who dealt with Trump and might have recordings or documents is suddenly very interesting to investigators. The broader legal and political unraveling is visible. Trump faces criminal charges in multiple jurisdictions, civil lawsuits, congressional investigations, and each case is producing evidence that strengthens the others. The walls are closing in from multiple directions simultaneously. Look, the bottom line is this. Live courtroom testimony and cross-examination just exposed secret recordings and documents that directly implicate Trump in hush money schemes and campaign cover-ups. Michael Cohen played actual audio of Trump discussing illegal payments. Prosecutors presented comprehensive evidence contradicting Trump's public denials. This is a watershed moment in Trump's legal battles. This isn't circumstantial evidence or he said she said testimony. This is Trump's own voice discussing crimes, supported by documents and financial records. That's the kind of evidence that leads to convictions. Trump's legal team visibly collapsed during cross-examination. They couldn't refute the recordings. They couldn't discredit Cohen when he had physical evidence backing up his claims. They watched their defense strategy crumble as prosecutors methodically presented damning evidence. The implications for Trump's credibility and future are enormous. He's been calling these investigations witch hunts for years. But when juries hear recordings of him discussing illegal payments, that narrative falls apart. Either Trump is guilty of the crimes he's charged with, or he's somehow the victim of elaborate conspiracies across multiple jurisdictions. Occam's razor suggests the former. The media scrutiny is intense and will only increase as trials progress. Every day of testimony brings new revelations. Every piece of evidence gets analyzed endlessly. Trump can't escape the news cycle as long as his trials are active. And with multiple cases proceeding simultaneously, the negative coverage is constant. The political discourse heading into elections is being shaped by these trials. Republicans have to decide whether to defend Trump against overwhelming evidence or distance themselves. Democrats will use the recordings and testimony in campaign ads. And voters will have to weigh Trump's legal troubles against their policy preferences. So here's my final question for you. Do you think this evidence is finally enough to hold Trump accountable? Or do you think he'll find a way to avoid consequences like he always has? And for voters who still support Trump after hearing his voice on recordings discussing illegal payments, what would it take to change your mind? Drop your thoughts in the comments. This is one of the most important political trials in American history, with evidence that clearly implicates a former president in criminal conduct. And make sure you're subscribed because these trials are ongoing. More witnesses will testify. More evidence will be revealed. More damaging information will come out. You need to stay informed about every development because this is determining Trump's political future and potentially his freedom. Don't miss the coverage.